My husband and mother-in-law tried to take the family business until I handed them the documents. I had spent most of my life pouring my heart into our family bakery in rural Ohio. Every loaf of bread, every pastry, every small detail reflected my passion and dedication. I always believed that family meant trust and loyalty, but lately things had started to feel off. My husband, Derek, 35, who had always seemed charming and supportive, had started acting strangely. He would take calls in private, hide documents, and make decisions about the bakery without telling me. At first, I tried to brush it off, thinking he just wanted to help, but a nagging feeling in my gut told me something was wrong. Then there was my mother-in-law, Vivian. She had always had a strong personality, but recently, I noticed her influence growing in ways that felt controlling. She questioned my decisions, made suggestions that seemed helpful but carried a tone of judgment, and spent a lot of time at the bakery under the guise of family support. I loved Derek and wanted to believe the best of his mother, but deep down, I started to sense a dangerous alignment between them. One afternoon, I stayed late at the bakery, reviewing the day's sales and expenses. I noticed some discrepancies, small transfers from our account to an unfamiliar source, contracts signed in vague terms, and emails I had never seen. When I asked Derek about them, he brushed me off with a casual, "It's just business stuff, don't worry." But the way he avoided my eyes made my stomach twist. The trust one had built over years suddenly felt fragile. I began paying closer attention, observing their patterns. Derek was distant and secretive, while Vivian's comments about the bakery were sharper, almost calculating. They spoke in hushed tones when they thought I wasn't listening, and every suggestion they made now felt like subtle pressure. I realized that what I had once considered harmless family interference was actually a quiet takeover. The thought that the two people I loved and trusted most could be plotting against me made me feel both hurt and furious. Despite the shock and betrayal, I didn't panic. I quietly started gathering evidence, noting every suspicious transaction and decision. I reminded myself that I had built the bakery from the ground up, and I wasn't going to let anyone take it from me. My heartbreak was real, but so was my determination. I knew the fight wouldn't be easy, especially because it was against my own family, but I also knew I had to protect what I had worked so hard for. Little did Derek and Vivian know, I was already thinking 3 steps ahead. I wasn't going to react impulsively or let anger cloud my judgment. I was planning quietly and carefully for the moment when the truth would come out, and when I would finally take back what was mine. The feeling of betrayal burned deep, but so did my resolve. I had loved them, trusted them, and now it was time to show that I could outsmart them while protecting everything I had built. The quiet strength inside me was ready to surface. I started noticing things that didn't feel right with our bakery. One evening, I was going through some papers and found financial documents and contracts that I had never seen before. They had been signed without my knowledge. My heart sank as I realized that Derek and Vivian were making big decisions without including me. When I asked Derek about it, he just said I should take a back seat and let the adults handle business. His words stung more than I expected. Vivian didn't make it any easier. At family dinners, she would openly criticize how I ran the bakery, making little comments about my choices and suggesting I wasn't experienced enough. I tried to ignore it at first, but her words cut deeper every time. I began to see the pattern. This wasn't about helping me or the business. It felt like they were slowly taking control. I also started noticing smaller betrayals. Bank passwords had been changed without telling me, and I couldn't access some of the key accounts I had always managed. Emails I needed for the bakery were being redirected, and I realized that decisions I had always been part of were now being made behind my back. The trust one had placed in them was slipping through my fingers, and it felt like I was being pushed out of my own business. The more I watched, the more isolated I felt. Derek and Vivian were acting as if I didn't exist when it came to important choices. I remember sitting in the bakery late one night, staring at the papers on the table, and feeling both hurt and angry. It was painful to see my husband and mother-in-law working together against me, but at the same time, something inside me refused to break. I couldn't let them take over what I had built. The betrayal was heavy, but it made me more determined. I promised myself that I wouldn't give up or let them succeed. I started thinking carefully, trying to figure out how I could protect the bakery and make sure they couldn't manipulate me. The feelings of isolation and hurt were strong, but my determination to fight back grew stronger every day. I knew I couldn't face this alone, so I decided to get help. I reached out to a discreet accountant named Miles Jennings. He was calm, professional, and completely trustworthy. I explained my suspicions and asked him to quietly go through the bakery's financial records. I needed to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. As Miles dug deeper, the truth hit me like a punch to the chest. Derek and Vivian had been slowly moving assets from the bakery into a shell company under Vivian's name. Every transfer was small enough to go unnoticed, but together, it was clear they were trying to take control. My stomach dropped, and tears filled my eyes as I realized how carefully they had planned this. The people I loved and trusted most were betraying me in the worst way possible. I remembered all the times I had helped them, thinking we were a team. I thought we shared everything, that every effort I put into the bakery was for our family. I remembered staying late nights, helping Derek with new ideas, and teaching Vivian how to handle some of the business details. I had believed that my loyalty and support would be returned with trust and respect. Now I saw that I had been blind to their intentions all along. The heartbreak was crushing, but anger started to build inside me too. How could they do this to me? How could Derek, my husband, stand by while his mother slowly tried to take everything I had built? Every memory of teamwork, every shared success now felt like a trap I hadn't realized I was in. I felt a mix of sadness, shock, and determination all at once. Working with Miles, I documented everything. Every unusual transaction, every shift of assets, every contract they had signed without my knowledge was recorded carefully. I knew that one day this evidence would protect me, but right now, it just made the betrayal feel even more real. It was hard to face that the people I had trusted the most were the ones trying to hurt me. Even as I struggled with the shock, I could feel a small fire starting inside me. This wasn't the end of my story. They might have tried to be clever, but I was clever too. I realized that their betrayal, as painful as it was, had awakened something in me. I could fight back, and I would. The memories of late nights, shared dreams, and laughter made the betrayal sting even more. But they also reminded me why I had to protect the bakery. I had built it with my heart, and I wasn't going to let anyone take it from me. Even as I felt crushed by the deceit, a part of me was already planning how to turn everything around. I wouldn't just survive this. I would take back what was mine, stronger than before. I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore, so I decided to confront Derek in private. I asked him directly about the transfers and the hidden contracts, hoping for honesty. Instead, he looked at me like I was crazy and told me I was overreacting, that I was imagining things and letting my emotions get the better of me. His calm tone made it worse. He was trying to make me doubt myself, and for a moment, I felt my confidence shake. Vivian, on the other hand, continued her act of sweetness. She came around, offering help with the bakery, praising my work, and acting like everything was normal. But beneath that smile, I could feel her manipulation. Every supportive comment seemed designed to make me second-guess myself. I realized they were working together, carefully controlling how I saw the situation, so I wouldn't fight back too soon. My friends started noticing how stressed I had become. I would cancel plans, spend long nights at the bakery, and seem distant even at family gatherings. One evening, my close friend, Laura, pulled me aside and told me to be careful, warning me not to trust anyone blindly, even the people I loved most. Her words struck me deeply. I knew she was right, and that realization made me even more determined to protect myself and my bakery. It was during those long, quiet nights that I began planning my next steps. I couldn't let this be about just money. Derek and Vivian had crossed a line. They had tried to take advantage of my trust and disrespect me in the process. I realized that I needed to act, not out of anger, but out of a desire to reclaim my power and earn the respect I deserved. I started thinking carefully, mapping out a plan in my mind. I reminded myself that I had built the bakery from scratch and that my efforts and dedication couldn't just be erased. I wouldn't let them win, and I would make sure they couldn't manipulate or betray me again. Even though my heart hurt from their deceit, I felt a steely determination growing inside me. I knew the fight wouldn't be easy, but I also knew I was stronger than they realized. I had been hurt, yes, but now I was ready to take control and prove that I wasn't someone they could push around. I had to protect what was mine, and I was ready to do whatever it took. I knew I had to be careful. I couldn't confront Derek and Vivian directly yet, or they would see what I was doing. So I started working in secret. I quietly drafted legal documents that would give me full control over the bakery. I wanted to make sure that no matter what they tried, I would be protected. Every word, every clause was carefully written so that they wouldn't be able to challenge me later. During this time, I acted completely normal around them. I laughed at their jokes, answered Derek's questions politely, and even let Vivian think she was helping me make decisions. I didn't want them to suspect anything. It was exhausting, pretending to be calm and unaware, but I knew it was necessary. Every day I spent smiling at them. I was also quietly planning how to outsmart them. I also hired a lawyer I could trust, Harper Lane. Harper specialized in family business disputes, and I knew having someone experienced on my side would make a huge difference. I explained everything to Harper, showing the documents and the evidence I had collected. Harper assured me that the plan would work if I stayed careful and followed each step. I felt a little relief knowing I wasn't doing this alone. While preparing the legal documents, I also started setting small traps. I redirected important bakery emails to my private account so I could see everything Derek and Vivian were doing. I reviewed contracts very carefully, making small changes that looked harmless but would protect my rights. Each little move gave me confidence, and I felt like I was slowly regaining control over the situation. I noticed that Derek and Vivian were starting to act differently around me. Derek was more cautious, double-checking things before speaking, and Vivian seemed slightly nervous, always smiling but glancing at me as if she suspected something. They didn't know exactly what was going on, but they could feel that something had changed. That gave me a small sense of satisfaction, knowing I was already ahead, even if they couldn't see it. Every day, I felt a mix of tension and hope. I was still hurt and angry about their betrayal, but I was also growing stronger. I wasn't just protecting the bakery. I was proving to myself that I could fight back without letting them see my hand. Every quiet step I took brought me closer to the moment when I could finally reveal the truth. Even though it was stressful, I felt more in control than I had in weeks. I had a plan, a lawyer I trusted, and a way to watch everything they were doing without them realizing it. Derek and Vivian might think they were clever, but I was ready. I had turned my heartbreak into strategy, and I was determined to make sure they couldn't take what was mine. Every small victory reminded me that I could win this without letting them know I already had. I knew it was time to see how far Derek and Vivian would go, so I invited them to a family business review meeting. I acted calm and professional, making it sound like I wanted to discuss some ideas and even give them more shares of the bakery. I wanted them to think I was still trusting them, so they would let their guard down. As soon as I presented the fake plan, I saw the change in their faces. Derek's eyes lit up with excitement, and Vivian smiled in a way that made it clear she thought she had already won. They started talking freely, explaining how they had planned to take over the bakery completely. They didn't realize that I was listening carefully to every word. I had set everything up so I could secretly record the conversation. Their voices, their plans, everything was being captured without them knowing. Hearing them openly admit their intentions made my blood boil, but at the same time, I felt a sense of satisfaction. I had been careful, I had planned this, and now the truth was out in the open. Derek and Vivian kept talking, revealing details I hadn't even known. They spoke about the shell company, the hidden accounts, and the contracts they had manipulated. I stayed calm on the outside, pretending to be shocked and polite, but inside, I was processing every word, knowing that this would be the proof I needed. It was strange how confident they became, thinking I was still naive. They had underestimated me, and that overconfidence was exactly what I had counted on. I realized that my careful planning had worked. I had created a situation where their betrayal would expose itself completely, without them realizing it. By the end of the meeting, I felt a mix of anger and relief. I had the evidence I needed to protect the bakery, and I had caught them in the act. The betrayal was laid bare, and now I held the upper hand. I knew that this meeting would change everything. Derek and Vivian had thought they were clever, but I had outsmarted them, and finally, I had the proof to back it up. For the first time in weeks, I felt a shift inside me. I wasn't just reacting anymore, I was in control. The people I had trusted most had revealed their true selves, and I was ready to show them that I wasn't someone they could manipulate. After the meeting, I felt ready. I stayed calm, even though my heart was pounding. I called Derek and Vivian into the office one afternoon, telling them I had some important documents to show them. I handed them the papers slowly, keeping my expression neutral, watching their reactions closely. The moment they saw the legal documents, their faces changed. Shock and panic spread across Derek's features, and Vivian's smile disappeared instantly. They had not expected this. I could see the fear in their eyes, the sudden realization that their plans had completely failed. For a moment, they were silent, unable to speak, and I stayed calm, letting the weight of the moment sink in. I explained to them clearly but firmly that these documents gave me full authority over the bakery. I had anticipated their betrayal and had taken every step to ensure that I was fully protected legally. Every transfer of shares, every contract, every hidden account they had tried to manipulate was now irrelevant. I was in complete control, and nothing they could do would change that. I watched as they struggled to find words, their usual confidence gone. Derek tried to argue, saying I had overreacted or misunderstood things, but I didn't let him interrupt. Vivian's attempts to charm or manipulate me were equally ineffective. I realized then that my revenge wasn't about anger or rash decisions. It was smart, calculated, and completely effective. I had taken the high ground, using patience and strategy rather than letting emotions take over. As I spoke, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The betrayal had hurt, yes, but seeing them powerless now was almost healing. I had stayed careful, planned every step, and finally turned the tables in a way that was fair and secure. I wasn't seeking to destroy them, only to protect myself and what I had built with my own hands. Even though I felt in control, a small part of me wondered if they would try to retaliate. Derek and Vivian had been clever, and I knew they might look for a way to strike back. But I also knew that I had prepared thoroughly. Every legal clause, every precaution, every step I had taken would stop them from succeeding. I was ready for whatever came next, confident in my plan and my ability to defend the bakery. That day, I realized how much I had grown. The heartbreak and betrayal had tested me, but they had also made me stronger, sharper, and more determined. I was no longer the person who trusted blindly. I had proven to myself that I could face betrayal head-on and protect everything I had worked for. Derek and Vivian had underestimated me, and that had been their biggest mistake. I stood tall, calm, and in control, ready to move forward and rebuild the trust and respect that had been broken. After I handed them the legal documents, Derek and Vivian tried to argue, insisting they had rights to the bakery. I stayed calm and let my lawyer, Harper, handle it. Harper enforced every legal clause I had prepared, leaving them no room to challenge me. Their words and protests didn't matter. Everything had been carefully planned, and the law was on my side. Derek, frustrated and panicked, started making desperate attempts to salvage his reputation. He tried talking to family members, explaining his side, and even tried acting like nothing had happened. I listened quietly, refusing to react. I knew that arguing or showing anger would only give him an advantage, so I stayed firm and let the facts speak for themselves. Every attempt he made only highlighted his dishonesty and made it clearer that I had been right to protect the bakery. Vivian's manipulations started coming to light as well. Extended family and close friends began noticing her strange behavior, her constant helpful suggestions, and how she had tried to take control behind my back. They had seen hints for years, but now it was undeniable. Seeing the truth come out was both satisfying and painful. The people I had trusted to support me had tried to undermine me, but now everyone could see who was really acting in their own interest. As the days passed, I began the slow process of healing. The betrayal still hurt. It always would. But I also felt a sense of empowerment. I had faced the people I loved most when they tried to hurt me, and I had come out stronger. I realized that protecting myself and the bakery wasn't just about winning a legal battle. It was about reclaiming my confidence and my sense of control. Every time I looked around the bakery, I felt proud of what I had built and even prouder that I had defended it. The anger and sadness were still there, but they had turned into determination and clarity. The revenge I had planned carefully had given me closure. I knew that Derek and Vivian had learned that betrayal has consequences, and I could finally move forward without fear or doubt. It was a mix of emotions, sadness for the trust that had been broken, but empowerment for the strength I had discovered in myself. I had survived the worst, and I was ready to focus on the future, stronger and wiser than ever. After the legal battle ended, I threw myself into the bakery with a renewed sense of purpose. I wanted to rebuild it not just to recover what had been threatened, but to make it better than ever. I spent hours experimenting with new recipes, improving the displays, and finding ways to attract more customers. Each small success reminded me why I had fallen in love with this business in the first place. My staff noticed the change in me immediately. They had seen me stressed and hurt before, but now I was focused, confident, and determined. Many of them had been loyal for years, and they admired my resilience. They trusted me even more now, knowing that I could face challenges, protect the bakery, and lead them through tough times. Their support gave me strength and reminded me that the bakery was more than just a business. It was a community, a place where people believed in me and the work we did together. I also spent a lot of time reflecting on the lessons I had learned. I realized that trust isn't something you can give blindly. I had trusted Derek and Vivian completely, and it had cost me dearly. Now, I knew that trust must be earned through actions, not assumed because someone is family. It was a hard lesson, but an important one. I promised myself that from now on, I would be careful about who I trusted and how I shared control. Derek left quietly a few weeks after everything had settled. There were no big arguments or confrontations. He seemed to understand that he could no longer interfere. Vivian was completely blocked from the business, unable to influence anything. Seeing them go made me feel a strange mix of relief and sadness. They had been a part of my life for so long, and their absence was noticeable, but I knew it was necessary to protect what I had built. Even though I had overcome the betrayal and taken control, the pain didn't disappear completely. I still felt the sting of what had happened, the heartbreak of being betrayed by people I loved and trusted. But alongside that pain was a sense of triumph. I had survived the worst, defended the bakery, and come out stronger. The sense of victory wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, steady, and real. Every day, as I worked in the bakery and saw my staff and customers enjoying what we had built together, I felt proud. I had learned that strength comes from perseverance and careful planning. I had learned that betrayal can hurt deeply, but it can also teach you lessons about yourself and the people around you. The bakery was thriving, my staff was happy, and I had regained control of my life. Step by step, I was healing and growing, and I knew that I could face whatever came next with confidence and resilience. After everything that had happened, I realized my story could help others. I decided to share it, not to shame Derek or Vivian, but to show people that even when the people you love betray you, it's possible to stand strong and protect what's yours. I spoke honestly about the pain, the heartbreak, and the betrayal I had faced, but I also talked about how planning carefully, staying calm, and believing in myself helped me turn the situation around. I wanted people to understand that strength doesn't always come from anger or fighting. It can come from being clever, patient, and thoughtful. Even when someone you trust tries to take everything from you, you can protect yourself if you stay smart and focused. Sharing my story felt like a release. It reminded me of how far I had come and how much I had grown, even in the middle of the betrayal. After talking about it, I went back to the bakery, where life continued in its simple, comforting way. The smell of fresh bread, the warmth of the ovens, and the smiles of my loyal staff made me feel grounded. Customers walked in, chatting and laughing, some of them regulars I had known for years. Seeing their trust and respect reminded me why I had fought so hard. This bakery was more than just a business. It was a part of the community, a place that connected people, and a part of me. As I served customers, I reflected on everything I had learned. Trust is precious, but it must be earned. Betrayal can hurt more than almost anything else, but it also teaches important lessons. I realized that even in the worst situations, you can find strength you didn't know you had. You can be smart, stay patient, and reclaim control over your life. Looking around the bakery, I felt a deep sense of peace. I had rebuilt more than just the business. I had rebuilt my confidence, my self-respect, and my life. The journey had been painful, but it had made me stronger and wiser. Every smile from a customer, every word of encouragement from my staff, reminded me that I was on the right path. I hope my story inspires anyone who feels betrayed or hurt. Even when someone you love tries to take advantage of you, you can protect yourself with patience, careful planning, and determination. Life isn't always easy, and betrayal can leave scars, but it can also show you just how strong you really are. Sometimes, the greatest victories come quietly, through careful steps and unwavering belief in yourself. I looked around one last time at the bakery, taking a deep breath, feeling proud. The ovens glowed warmly, the counters were full of fresh bread, and my customers smiled back at me. I had fought for what was mine, and I had won. And that, more than anything, made all the pain worth it.